Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Stacy. This is episode 365. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Stacy. That is at StacyPatton89 on Twitter, or on X, as the kids like to call it. Stacy, how are you doing on this? We'll just say a Tuesday.
Yeah, not a victory Tuesday for. Well, it is for the Bills. I want to see Bills Chiefs going to be appointment theater. I am genuinely excited for your team. Genuinely, besides the fact you're my co-host, it's a franchise that definitely deserves what Josh that run he had was fucking insane. But yeah, it's snowy and rainy and shitty here, so.
Yeah, the Bills did win. Unfortunately, their entire linebacking and secondary is depleted, so we will see how they overcome that. But they are playing next week.
You got to build a shrine in your house to Josh Allen if they win the Super Bowl.
No, I have to offer. I need to offer a tribute to my fearless leader, Sean McTerrorist.
It's Sean the Terrorist.
Yeah. All right. Before we get started, I do have to make a few announcements. The first thing, that Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at Strickland on Instagram, posting all kinds of new content on there. Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like and then subscribe to the channel. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise that is available on our website. You can find that at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store. You can find all kinds of cool content or cool merchandise out there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. And finally, the Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There is a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, the podcast that I was with Prez. You also got access to the Strickland, not the Strickland mailbag, but now the newest podcast, Takes from Obvious Bozos, hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter. You also get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And now you also get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is our newest podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Constantine Metricos and Jeffrey Rasmussen. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $15 tier, and $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits, including pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-host a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. And this will be possible that you. And it also be possible without BetOnline, with the NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing. BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores, with additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile. You can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get into the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use a promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus and your first deposit. BetOnline where the game starts. The Knicks played a game yesterday. They lost to the Magic, 98-94, in what was a extreme rock fight. No Brunson for the second game in a row. Julius had a very rough game, also tweaked his ankle early on. So we'll see. I would suspect he plays again because he always plays, but he did not have a good game. And his defensive effort, especially down the stretch, was pretty disappointing. Deuce McBride had a nice game. And I personally feel very strongly about this, that I thought Tom Thibodeau lost this game for the Knicks because of his raging fucking boner for Josh Hart. And I'm pretty sick and tired of watching Josh Hart play basketball right now, especially the two. And I'm pretty sick and tired of people justifying why he plays and why Thibs loves him and why Thibs has to play him. And I'm sick and tired of the players whose minutes get cut as a result of that and as a result of Tom Thibodeau's extremely ridiculous, disgusting necessity to have a true five on the floor at all times, to the point that he's convinced himself now that Precious Achiuwa, who is fucking garbage, okay? Precious Achiuwa is fucking garbage. He is fucking terrible. The fact that he's getting more minutes now consistently because of just
he blew two nights. We talk about Julius struggling. He had 5 assists, 0 turnovers. It probably should have been at least 7 just from Precious.
Precious is
Probably 8 or 9 or
He's
10 if you look at Hart. But
terrible. He's terrible. The fact that he's getting minutes now, and that results as a trickle down. It results in less minutes for Quentin Grimes. It results in less minutes for Dante DiVincenzo. Once Jalen Brunson comes back, it will result in less minutes for Deuce McBride, guaranteed. Like this is where his inability to be any just modicum of flexible is a killer. And if you want to tell me, well, Julius was hurt yesterday, so that's why he couldn't do it. Okay, fine. He was hurt yesterday. You want to give him that? Fine. Was he hurt against Memphis? No. Memphis was playing a fucking squad of fucking Jags in that game, and you couldn't try. You couldn't even try. Okay, you couldn't try. Your offense is like in the absolute shitter without Brunson, but you couldn't try going small to see.
I mean,
hey,
is there an
maybe
argument
if there's more space,
find about Precious? Like we just got Precious. Do you fact find a little bit here?
No, you don't. Look, why can't you? You can fucking fact find about guys you have. Fucking fact find about shit you've had on the fucking roster for 3 fucking years that you've
Jericho Sims hasn't played against backups. That's the thing. He either starts or he doesn't play, right? That's the thing. That's fact finding. So yeah, I'm with you, but
it's ridiculous. Just like you can try. You could have tried it against Memphis. You could have tried it against fucking Dallas. Dallas was playing. They legitimately played Grant Williams at the 5. They played Markieff Morris at the 5 for stretches of that game.
Kleba is shorter than Randall, isn't he? Kleba?
Even if he's not shorter, it's not a guy that you're like, oh my god, he's gonna just destroy Randall in the post or something. Like it's ridiculous.
Well, that's not what you're worried about. You're worried about the drop coverage.
Yeah, the fact that he will not try this stuff directly impacts players' minutes. And it creates this bullshit binary people like to bring up where it's like, well, where's Grimes going to get his minutes? Hart has to play this. And like this is not how lineups work. Lineups do not work as binary, like player versus player.
Well, do they work like that in the NBA, though? I mean, because I think you watch a lot more other teams than me. And I'm curious if some of these issues, like Hart has to get certain minutes.
Stacy, you watch enough NBA over the entirety of your life. How many fucking teams in the NBA would never use Julius Randle the 5 over the course of 4 years? Name me one team that would just be like, maybe Doc Rivers. That's maybe the only other fucking guy.
He's trying to lose his job right now.
Out of job. Monty Williams, maybe. Okay, another guy who's terrible at his job. Like, do you think Eric Spoelstra would never use Julius Randle the 5?
That's like saying.
Do you think Mike Malone would never use Julius Randle the 5? And yeah, you can be like, well, those guys are championship coaches. That is the fucking point. That is the point. Championship coaches have to be able to use pivots. If Tom Thibodeau cannot if the only thing that goes through his mind when he wants to experiment stuff is playing big, that is a fuck up. That is a blind spot he has, and you cannot deny how that influences and that in turn seems to be shaping how they view roster construction and the decisions they make. And it is bad. That is bad. Like, I'm sorry. If you trade for OG Anunoby, part of that appeal, a piece of, not saying all of it, obviously, the majority of his appeal is just that he's a lockdown defender. Part of that appeal should be, oh, wow, this is really cool because now I can play OG at the 4 and have Hart at the 3. And
you're not even exploring that in games where you should be, right? Because if Brunson comes back, you say, well, we'll have full strength. I didn't expect you to be in this bad a mood after the Bills were fucking awesome and Josh Allen looked like the destroyer of all worlds. I do want to ask you this. I think a criticism, or kind of not a criticism, but something I've seen is that there's always a guy Knicks fans will pick on. You know, it used to be, even before Thibs, why isn't Frank getting minutes over Elf, right? You wrote an awesome article actually saying that, like, moving Frank to the bench behind Elf, I remember this on PNT, how that benefited, like, the on-off with Frank and how much more beneficial he was. There's always a guy, right? So it's Elf. Then after Elf, it was, Fournier and Kemba. And when they left, it was Burks, who definitely didn't. I think that's a little bit misconstrued because I don't think anyone. I definitely never had a problem with Burks starting. I had a problem with him starting at 1. If he started next to quickly at the 2, I think that would have been a great lineup. And then once he's gone, then it's RJ. Then it's, and then people did say it's going to be Hart now, right? Do you think that's a thing, or, are we just always hyper focused on trying to isolate to one player? How would you respond to that?
You're saying that we're hyper focusing on Josh Hart? Is that the?
I'm asking about if there is a general trend for Knicks fans or for us to focus on one player as the source of all the lineup problems.
It is
villainize
not a
them,
player.
demonize them.
There are no lineup problems. What are we talking about when we're saying there are lineup problems? We're talking about the usage.
You're talking about Hart now, right? You're
yes.
Hart is the biggest
Hart
issue.
at the 2 is a fucking joke. Like we don't need more proof of this. We saw this in the fucking playoffs last year.
But
like
it's not Hart playing at all. It is Hart at the 2, right?
Right. I have no problem with Josh Hart. Like, yes, I don't. Let me rephrase that. I have a very big problem with how Josh Hart has played this year. I think he's played like he's got his head up his ass. He's not been as focused. His energy and impact on games is nowhere near what it was last year. I know his on court and on off is still looking real good.
Yeah, separate that from Quickly though. By the way,
yeah, it's not good.
Dog shit without Quickly. So he was riding the coattails of the on-off god.
Yeah, and the EPM hates him this year. He's by far and away the Knicks' lowest rotation guy right now by EPM. He's at like 32nd. I think he's the 30th percentile after yesterday in EPM. Grimes, just for some perspective, is 55th percentile. And I don't think Grimes has had a very good season either. So this is not a case of like, oh, I just overvalue. I actually think Hart at his best is clearly a better player even today than Quentin Grimes. But if you're talking about lineup construction, then you cannot play Josh Hart at the 2, especially when you don't have Jalen Brunson at this point in time. Jalen Brunson is such a good scorer. He's such a good scorer that you can have dog shit lineups out there in terms of spacing, and he can just make shit happen because that's what he does. But you don't have that. So you're actually not just fucking over Josh Hart. You're fucking over Deuce McBride. You're fucking over an OG Anunoby. You're fucking over Quentin Grimes when he has to play. Like, you're fucking over so many guys. And even Julius Randle, like people want to say here and bitch about Julius Randle. That's fine. I get it. I've done it plenty. But when you play Julius Randle in a lineup that has Deuce McBride running point, Josh Hart and OG at the 2 and 3, which he's been doing now for like way too many minutes every game, and then a Hartenstein at the 5, who obviously for all the things he is good at, and he is better at creating space than Mitchell Robinson, he's still not much of a spacer. Like, when you're doing that to him, it is a disservice. And you're not going to have a good offense. I'm sorry. I agree that Julius Randle played bad yesterday. I agree that he has to be better when you want. I we
didn't learn anything new about Randle.
Right.
We know if he's the focal point of the offense. Well, we saw this when he had Alec Burks. Alec Burks, by the way, Deuce was awesome yesterday. Alec Burks, 2022, was better than anyone they had in the perimeter next to Randle. He doesn't have Quickly anymore. Doesn't even have RJ to whatever extent that might have helped. So it was literally Julius against the world. Considering that, I thought he did pretty good. Or like not what you would expect from a quote unquote star. So fine. He's not. How many? Let me ask you. I want to ask you this, Shwin. How many guys would have thrived in the situation or even had a decent game in the situation Julius had? You're talking about guys like Luka. You're talking about LeBron. Like, who besides that tier of guys, who's having a good game in that situation?
Not a lot of guys. Like, I think if you put AD in that situation, he's having a terrible game.
He's gonna fucking be awful. Bam is gonna be awful. Those are stars, and Bam gives you a lot more on the defense. Both of those guys. So maybe that's not. But Jaylen Brown, that's everyone says, oh, he's good enough to be number 2. Well, he was good. Jaylen Brown would have gone 5 for 18 yesterday. Worse, maybe. And I thought Randall's decision making was good. Yet they won his minutes. He was +2. And I think it's worth noting that because I think a lot of the fact was like we needed Randall to step up and he didn't. And it's like we already know what his limitations are. He can't handle triple teams when there's no threat. And he tried to make the right play. I thought he generally tried to make the right play. There were many times, again, I want to say Josh Hart was a good acquisition by the Knicks. He's a very good player. How many times did you see Deuce or Randall, who are already struggling to create space because of the attention, kick it out to Josh Hart and the possession dies, or it ends up in the fucking whack-ass turnaround jumper or something? How many times do you see that? Like, it's just like people were like, well, I saw someone say like, well, the guards outplayed Randall yesterday. Yeah. Do you think? Well, Deuce just hit some fucking insane shots.
I also would suggest that like I agree Randall played really poorly individually. I also think people are underestimating how much the offense cratered every single. Like, it wasn't good to begin with, but it was pretty just more like non-existent every time he sat. Like you didn't have it puts way too much pressure on Deuce. Like even when Randall sucks, like he sucked yesterday, defenses have to pay attention to him. And this is like something that I've really grown to appreciate this year, especially just watching some of these rebuilding teams where you're like, holy shit, like what the fuck is wrong with your team? But like Deuce benefited from that yesterday. And that's cool. Like that's a good thing, right? Like we see Randall benefit from playing with Brunson. Right.
So did DiVincenzo. He didn't
right.
shoot well, but he scored. Grimes when he actually got to fucking play did. By the way, Shwin, just as a side note, what is that coat you got on? Because that's got some Clyde energy right there, but I'm feeling it.
Oh yeah, I know. You asked me where I got it.
No, like what is that a coat or is that a?
No, it's a corduroy. It's a shirt.
It's nice, man. That's got some Clyde energy, but yeah, like it's just I don't think like. What are you trying to draw from that performance from Randall? Oh, he's not Nikola Jokic. Awesome. Did we not know that already?
Well, like, also, like, all I will say is, like, I agree with your point, and all I will say is that, like, personally, there's just not anything I'm going to learn from Julius Randle from the regular season. Like, there just really isn't. Like, and I just don't even know what. Like, I tweeted
You're not going to learn anything when he's not playing with Brunson. He has to play with Brunson. Or a guy like that. But that doesn't mean he's a bad player, right?
Yeah. So. All I learned is that he, like, once again, he gutted it through injury. And when he guts it through injury, I can respect it, but his defensive effort sucks. And that's a pretty big problem for the Knicks.
Especially when he plays 44 minutes, too. Right?
Yeah. And so.
And does everything, literally everything, every possession he has to touch the ball.
Yeah.
And he has to go in the paint and bang because that's his game now. He's not going to shoot threes as much. When he tried, he wasn't as good. It's just that is who he is, you know. Like he's not going to carry an offense, and yeah, like they nearly won still, but it was an ugly ass game. That's just what it's gonna be if you don't have Brunson right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just, but like to go back to the original, like I don't. To me, the issue is like, yeah, Josh Hart is going through like he's struggling right now, and I really think like. I don't know what's going on with him, but his impact overall just has not been there. He's missing threes, and that's part of it. But like, even aside from that, I think his defense has not been particularly great this year. I mean, yesterday he lost Joe Ingles multiple times off ball that resulted in buckets and whatever for the Magic. And that's just not acceptable. Like that needs to be a matchup you win. You got to win your minutes when you're on the fucking floor against Joe Ingles. Like maybe not the minutes because obviously that's a dynamic 5-man thing. But like you got to win the matchup. He's not winning the matchup. He took some early clock threes yesterday that are just like, dude, like what the fuck? Like I guess I like that he's shooting that with a little bit more confidence, but even at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a particularly great shot. He had a possession where he like brought like the other thing too, and I actually wonder about this. He complained earlier in the season about his role. At the time, I actually kind of understood it because I felt his role was pretty much like be Obi Toppin in the half court. Since then, we've seen him really get on the ball a lot more and bring the ball up and start being this weird half court initiator thing.
That's fucking awful.
Yeah, it's awful. I will give.
How many times does he look off Deuce, man? Like that's what like
he did this with quick.
DiVincenzo pushes the pace. DiVincenzo pushes the pace, but it's always either an outlet or he has a fucking layup. If he doesn't have that, he pushes or he slows it down and gives it to Deuce. Like I'm rewatching The Wire, so I'm gonna say this: chain of command, right? Like go through, let like Hart just thinks he's the fucking point guard. You're not. That's not who you are. Winning time, I'll channel this. I don't know who got in your head that you're a fucking star, but you're not. Get the ball to Deuce. He has limitations. And maybe that's a Thibs thing, but like try to take the pressure off Deuce. But like but so I'll say this. Like, I think when you talk about Josh Hart, I think in light of his new contract, probably, and you mentioned this, right? That they've done this has been happening before Brunson got hurt, or even before the Quickly trade, right? That he has been trying to do more that ends often disastrously. And part of me is like, well, just go back to your normal role, right? Cut, take open threes, screen. I think one thing that's lost with Hart is like he's a really good screener, and off that short roll, he's a good playmaker. They need to go back to that a little bit, but it's also like, what is he doing that Grimes can't? He's a better rebounder. Okay, fine. He's a better short roll playmaker. Fine. What is he doing that Deuce can't? Because here's the thing: like, if they trade for DeJounte Murray, or if they trade for, um, Malcolm Brogdon, and we should talk about the trade rumor that came out that the Knicks are shopping Quentin Grimes. But let's say they kept Grimes. The logical thing would be, 9-man rotation. Deuce has to go to the bench. I'm like, but why? Deuce was hitting insane shots yesterday, and look, it's not probably something you can rely on. I'll even say this: when people say like Deuce could be better than Quickly, I laugh. Right? He had that one in like really nice behind the back move, and he had a floater that Quickly hits 9 times out of 10. Missed it.
I didn't even make that move though. I like seeing the confidence.
I love. This is not a knock on Deuce. It's just these are the differences, right? Every time he got in the paint, you could see like he had a pocket pass to Hartenstein, right read, just the touch ain't there. These are the things that Quickly was good at, but all of that, like, what does Hart do better than Deuce right now? And Deuce would be the logical guy if you just added, if you didn't have to give up, if you have Fournier and a pick for like Malcolm Brogdon, Deuce would be out, and I don't think that's fair. Like, forget fair. I don't think that helps the team. I think, Josh Hart is making $20 million a year, but outside of that, what is he giving this team that Deuce has not for several years now? And yeah, we talk about Quickly's impact. Deuce's on-off has been pretty fucking good for a while. Never turns the ball over. Can hit shots. And right now it's coming up at a big level, but I've always believed in the shot because of just like it's always looked pure. I will say this. I'd say he's a better contested three-point shooter than Quickly. I don't think he's a better overall shooter than Quickly, but contested three-point shots, yeah. And he has a high release. He has the same kind of wingspan as Quickly. But why, like, what could you, like, forget the salaries? If we added someone, would you rather bench Hart or McBride right now? Assuming it was just Fournier and a pick. And so no rotation players are going
out. I mean, I'd rather bench Hart, but like, this is my point.
That's a big fucking deal, though, that you even think that.
It is, but like, this is my point. We are creating like when you asked earlier, what do Knicks fans single out a player? The reason I single out Josh Hart, and I've been singling him out this year so much, is because Tom Thibodeau is over relying on him. He's putting him in positions that are detrimental to the things he can actually provide you. Josh Hart cannot space the floor for you. Okay? He's not going to do it. He'll shoot. He can shoot. I think he's a career 35% 3-point shooter. He's something like 32%.
But it's not like they call the 2 a shooting guard, right?
Yeah. So he's not going to do that for you. Okay. He's not some half-court creator. He's not a particularly great lockdown defender. He's a guy who tries hard. He's a guy who has value on that end. He's obviously a great defensive rebounder. He can help push pace in transition. He's a good finisher.
He's a hard-nosed defender, Shwin.
Yeah.
Quickly was weak and soft.
Right. So. And so there are things he gives you that I like. You define but he's not a player. Like this, the difference between him and Quickly to me is this: Quickly was a lot more variable in the lineups you could put him in. You could put him in a lineup next to guys that couldn't shoot because you know why? Because he can shoot.
Literally every lineup he was in won their minutes.
Right. So
all of them.
So they're like that guy is more flexible. Grimes might not be. He can't do as many things as Josh Hart, but because he can shoot and he can defend. That makes him a lot easier plug-and-play player in various lineups. Ditto for Deuce McBride, even though he's
a better defender than Hart. Let's especially like we saw that in the playoffs. They put Grimes on Jimmy, Jimmy disappeared. They put Hart on Jimmy, Jimmy had success. I don't know, Hart was supposed to be. That was the reason, right? They told us, well, forget the shooting. Hart has the size to match up with Butler, and Grimes does have problems with guys like Tatum and all that, but. In that matchup, and like it's not like Hart doesn't struggle with Tatum too.
Yeah. And so the point is Josh Hart can still give you value. Maybe you need to cut his minutes. Okay. Maybe that's part of it, but he can give you value if you use him in the right lineups. I still believe that. There's no reason for me not to believe that because I don't think anything has changed about him as a player. He might just be struggling this year. Guys have down years. He's having a down year. Fine, it happens. What annoys me about the thing that you just said is I don't want to give up Precious Achiuwa does not need minutes. He doesn't. He does not need to play. He is bad. And and clearly Tom Thibodeau also believes that Jericho Sims, he might fucking fillet him or whatever in fucking training camp. Oh, Jericho had such a great training camp. He was so prepared. Like clearly he doesn't think Jericho Sims is good either. Okay. So if you don't think those guys are good, then it is your job as a coach to explore other options, especially when you have a team now who is traded for OG Anunoby and who has versatile pieces. If you refuse to explore that is on you. And so if the Knicks trade for a guy like Malcolm Brogdon or something, let's just say Malcolm Brogdon. Let's say that's the guy. And let's say they don't trade out Quentin Grimes. I don't think the minutes don't need to. Hart doesn't need to go out of the rotation. Grimes doesn't need to go out of the rotation. Deuce doesn't need to go out of the rotation. Precious Achiuwa can get the fuck out of the rotation. And Tom Thibodeau can figure out, okay, how do I stagger just enough so that I can play Randall at the 5 for how many minutes is Isaiah Hartenstein averaging right now? What is 36 or something since fucking Mitchell Robinson went down? Whatever. Let's say he's averaging 35 minutes a night. You can't figure out how to stagger your rotations enough that OG plays the 4, Randall even if you got to play, okay, fine, you got to play Precious a couple of minutes each half. Fine. That's still better than what you're doing right now. And it's going to create opportunities for other guys that deserve it more. And then the final part is just Josh Hart does not need if Quentin Grimes has repercussions for his play, so can Josh Hart. And that doesn't mean bench him. That means when he's playing poorly, you can just fucking cut his minutes. He does there was no reason for him to play 24 minutes last night. That was ridiculous. And quite honestly, that's what I thought lost us the game. The Knicks were up double digits. They were up, I believe they were up 5 in the first half. When Josh Hart came in, they were down 2 by the time he went out. They were up 8 or 9 when he came in.
It was a minus 14 team high. Grimes was, we should also say Grimes was a minus 10, but before the last couple of
Grimes
minutes,
is only playing with Josh Hart right now. This is what we have to understand. He is only playing with Josh Hart. And Josh Hart right now is playing bad. And he's also, and again, these lineups that they're in have zero shot creation, right? It's so I get that part of it. That's a struggle. So I don't care. I don't mind when they lose the minutes right now, where it's Flynn, Grimes, Hart, OG or something. You're not going to win those minutes most of the time. It's just not going to happen. I get it.
I think it's good teams. But yeah.
But you what you cannot do is have Hart come in at the 2 for no, he took out DiVincenzo after 7 minutes in each half for no reason. Those lineups, again, I think they were up 5 in the first half, and I think they were up 2 at halftime. So I think they were up 9 when Josh Hart came in the second half, and immediately you cannot score, and the lead starts coming down. That's not all Josh Hart, obviously, but again, it's very hard to look at that box score, and it is DiVincenzo did not play a single. There was no crossover between him and Josh Hart. Not any second.
How many times?
Second. Hold on. DiVincenzo's a +9 yesterday, and yeah, he missed free throws at the end. He missed 2 down the stretch.
He missed 3 overall, which is not like him. So.
Which is not great. Whatever. But he missed 2 in the fourth quarter. Okay, that's not great. He finished +9 yesterday. Josh Hart was a -13. That's the fucking game. That is literally the game. I don't like single game plus minus is always wonky a little bit, but when you so clearly use DiVincenzo for 24 minutes and then the other 24 minutes when he's sitting, Josh Hart is on the floor and that's it. There's no crossover. It says plenty to me because in their time on the floor, they're playing with the other guys that the other guys played, right? Oh, he played with Grimes. He played with OG. He played with Randall, whatever. These guys play mix and match and play with different combinations. The fact that Hart has just was that bad yesterday, and not just forgetting that he was bad.
He's been bad.
It's not like his rebounding was particularly awesome yesterday. And he wasn't giving you much in transition. And he certainly wasn't spacing the floor.
And DiVincenzo's a good rebounder too.
Right. So what? So he wasn't. So he
DiVincenzo had some awesome rebounds. By the way, we should mention that.
And so if he's not playing well, just play Grimes at the 3. The fact that and this is the other thing that he started doing this year. Grimes can't play the 3. It is bullshit. I reject it entirely. Anybody that buys that and creates it as like, well, what can Thibs do? Like Grimes can't play the 3. That's nonsense. It is fucking nonsense. He played Grimes 3 a bunch last year, and they were awesome in those minutes. And I understand the same
Do
combinations.
you have the numbers on that, by the way? If you don't, that's fine.
I don't have them right now. I can pull it up later. But like the quickly McBride Grimes, that was an awesome combination for us before we traded for Josh Hart. Okay, like Grimes played minutes at the 3. He's played minutes at the 3 the previous 2 seasons of his career. The fact that now arbitrarily he can't play the 3 anymore is fucking bullshit.
And is Hart bigger than him even? Like he might play a little, but they're the same size, aren't they? You might need Omar in here for a size check, but like, yeah, like they're the same size.
Yeah, no, I mean they're I think Hart's 6'4" and Grimes is about 6'4", 6'5", so they're not like too dissimilar. And I get it, Hart plays bigger than that. I get that.
Yeah, Grimes' rebounding is like a thing, but it's not like. And there's some people who mentioned his rebounding is better since he went to the bench. That's the thing. Like, but that's we should talk about like how did you feel seeing the Grimes trade rumor today? I mean, first of all, do you think that's from Thibs? Like, do you think there's a lot of, do you think there's a good amount of smoke to that, or what?
I think that when you don't play a guy, when you reduce a player's minutes the way that Grimes' minutes have been reduced to this degree, it is inevitable that their name is going to come up in trade conversations. It's just what it is. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Like, I think that it's definitely obviously possible that, I mean, they traded IQ and RJ for OG. Like, I think that tips their hand as to how aggressive they plan on being, and that clearly they're not necessarily attached to any of these young players to some high degree. So that tips their hand. I would be very annoyed if they trade, like, I'll just pull up the name of lists or the names on the list he mentioned. So this is what he said. This is from Fred Katz, just in case anybody was wondering, from The Athletic. The Knicks could pair Evan Fournier, who's on an expiring $18 million contract, with Grimes to bring back a contract of that size. Some players who fit the description include, in no particular order, the Portland Trailblazers' Malcolm Brogdon, the Utah Jazz's Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton, the Charlotte Hornets' Terry Rozier, the Indiana Pacers' Bruce Brown and TJ McConnell, the Atlanta Hawks' Bogdan Bogdanovic, the Cleveland Cavaliers' Karis LeVert, and the Dallas Mavericks' Tim Hardaway Jr. There's one player in this entire list that I would consider trading Grimes out for. Sexton. And say it again.
Sexton?
Yeah, Sexton. And that's fine. If they did that trade, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm fine with that. Brogdon? No. Clarkson? No. Terry Rozier? No. Bruce Brown?
Rozier's averaging 24 and 7.
Yes, and he would not play any minutes to get 24 and 7 in New York. Bruce Brown? No. TJ McConnell, get the fuck out of my face. Atlanta Hawks, Bogdan Bogdanovic. No. And I like Bogdanovic. I've actually talked about it. I've suggested him as somebody.
Did you say Atlanta or Detroit?
Atlanta. Karis LeVert, absolutely fucking not. Dallas Mavericks is Tim Hardaway Jr. Third time is not going to be the charm. Like, enough. Enough with
God, if we traded for Hardaway, God.
But you don't need. But even if you want these guys, there's literally one guy on that list that I think you would actually need to include Grimes to get. And and to your point, like let's say Charlotte's like, hey, you know what? We actually just love Rozier so much, we're not trading him. I'd be like, okay, fine, we're gonna move on down the list then. Like,
I do like Rozier, so that's the one I think about. But yeah,
I mean, if at least Rozier's good enough and has a track record long enough, fine.
And he's a solid defender. Like,
yeah, sure.
Smaller, but
if that's what you want to do, fine. But like Jordan Clarkson, Brogdon, are you fucking serious? Bogdanovic? No. Like, I'm sorry. This is just so dumb. And it's not because I love Quentin Grimes and think he's like the greatest player ever.
No, but he is a close to 40% 3-point shooter who can get it off very quickly. And this is everyone's like, well, he didn't shoot well in the playoffs. Hart shot in the playoffs. It's like, yeah, he was wide the fuck open every time. Like, people are ignoring this context. And even when Grimes was out there, you see that, like, it's very difficult for me to kind of, the people who are shitting on Quentin Grimes are going by count stats, and it's like, well, yeah, but look at the what actually happens, right? You hate advanced stats because you go by the eye test. Look at what happens when they're on the floor. And yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm probably a little bit more friendly to a Rozier deal, but there's no reason they need to give up Quentin Grimes to get Brogdon. There's probably no reason they need to give it up to get Clarkson, who, by the way, as much as I would actually like Clarkson on this team, defensive downgrade majorly. And that's, I mean, do you think Thibs actually thinks Hart is a better point of attack defender than Grimes?
Yes.
Like, that is a really bad evaluation based on any kind of evidence.
I mean, I don't even I genuinely don't. I'll say this. The other part of this piece that really fucking bothers me, that really, really bothers me is this. I'm just going to read it out because I think this is exactly why I believe Tom Thibodeau is a huge problem for this organization with the way that he deploys talent. But here we go. I got to figure this out. Here. The front office, I'm going to read it. It's kind of extended, but I want to read this out in full. The front office wanted to hand opportunities to 23-year-old point guard Miles McBride, who is out of the rotation, and Grimes, who is losing playing time to DiVincenzo and Hart. This is with regard to motivation of the Anunoby trade. McBride's role has revved up, especially with him starting in Brunson's place for the past 2 games. He went for a career-high 20 points Monday, but Grimes, save for a couple of performances when his minutes climbed to the low 20s, has maintained. Over the past 2 games with Brunson out and Hart struggling, Grimes has played a total of 29 minutes. It's a surprising turn given how Thibodeau once viewed the third-year sharpshooter. The Knicks coach was a major advocate behind drafting Grimes, number 25 in 2021. He was a driving force in the mission not to include him in past trades. At some point in the past year, that changed. The addition of DiVincenzo has complicated the situation too. A weekend in December, blah blah blah, he loses his role. And then I want to go here. Because of their overlapping qualities, Thibodeau has veered away from playing those two together with regard to Grimes and DiVincenzo, instead placing at least one of the bigger wings, Barrett, Hart, or Anunoby, alongside them. Grimes and DiVincenzo have played only 36 minutes together all season. Thibodeau says he's been hesitant to deploy Grimes DiVincenzo lineups because of size. DiVincenzo is more comfortable defending guards. Hart is the same height as them, but has a brawnier build. But Thibodeau also used to trust Grimes to defend all types of perimeter players, from guards like Trae Young to big wings like Pascal Siakam. You cannot indulge a coach like this. I'm sorry. You cannot indulge a coach like this and allow him to influence roster decisions to this degree. He cannot go from, okay, he defends everybody, to, oh my God, I cannot play him at the 3 ever again. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. It is a fucking joke. 36 minutes the entire year for DiVincenzo and Grimes is fucking bananas. That's ridiculous. That is just shitty coaching. I don't know. It just drives me absolutely crazy. And I have a huge problem with it, and I don't understand it. And the fact that they're allowing this to happen, and it's like they're fucking gaslighting me or something. Because I don't really like. I genuinely cannot understand how you can allow a coach cannot be the driving force of at least, or a contributing factor, at least let's call it that, of drafting a player, leaving said player out of major trades, and then deciding, well, I don't need this player anymore, so we're good. Like, that. If that is the degree of influence Tom Thibodeau has, that's a huge problem, and that is very, very worrying. And I don't know if that's the degree of influence Tom Thibodeau has. I have really big issues with everything that's going on right now with this front office.
There's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with this. Hart is, what did you say, brawnier than than Grimes? Is he really? He's a better rebounder. He has a good knack for where the ball goes. Quickly was too. Quickly's a better rebounder than Grimes. Is he brawnier than Grimes? If that's your proxy, I don't know about that. I mean, if they were to, let's say they traded Grimes to get DeJounte Murray, right? You think Grimes, Quickly, RJ for DeJounte Murray, Hart, and DiVincenzo is a upgrade on the team? That's what you have to look at. I don't really think so. It depends on if you think, quickly, but it almost feels like isn't so much as evaluation like Hart has that dog in him. Grimes is soft, right? Like we have to like come back. I don't know who this came from. It was a probably not very greatly sourced report, but they said, the Knicks got rid of the soft players and they added in hard nosed. They now have a roster full of hard nosed defenders. Is that really true? One, I think everyone has beaten this to death. Even people who are lower on quickly that I've seen on Twitter are like, that was one of our best defenders. Like, we're not going to say he's not hard nosed. Obi, fine. You want to say that he's a different type of player. RJ, if you want to say that, watch him go to the bucket. There's some controversy there. I don't think that was an upgrade, and it calls into question again. Thibs' talent. Like it took this guy half a season to play Grimes over Evan Fournier, and maybe you could say, well, he didn't know if he would shoot in games, but okay, isn't the whole thing supposed to be can they defend? Like you can't tell me in practice it didn't clearly seem like Grimes was a way better defender than Evan Fournier or Alec Burks or anyone else on the team that wasn't Quickly or Deuce. And we saw it in the playoffs. We saw what happened when Grimes was on Jimmy Butler, even with a hurt shoulder. So if you're gonna trade a guy who is a very good point of attack defender, if not elite, I think he's close to that. A solid team defender, Grimes never. I think the difference between him and Quickly, and the other thing is like, the other thing you said was like DiVincenzo and Grimes are. I don't think you said redundant. What was the word you used? You used
overlap in skills.
Overlap in skills. DiVincenzo is in the quick. He's a poor man's quick reaction.
They shoot too much. It's so bad to have that.
So forget offense, right? On defense, which is apparently the Thibs thing, DiVincenzo is in the quickly. And by the way, Hart mold. Hart is in his best when he can jump passing lanes. That is what he is great at. That is why he has the transition gene, which he maybe over-exercises, because he's good at anticipating. He's a very good help defender. On ball, he has the strength to cause some problems, and we've seen it pay off. He shut down Jamal Murray down the stretch against the Nuggets last year. But, DiVincenzo and Grimes are very, very different defensive players. DiVincenzo is not a great on-ball defender. I don't think he's as good as Emmanuel Quickly on ball. He is an excellent, he is like he's like a cornerback that you ask him to press and get up in a dude, and there's just limitations there. But you ask him to play zone and fool quarterbacks, that's who DiVincenzo is. That is very different from Grimes, who is at his best when he is blowing up DHOs, when he is, fighting through screens and getting. I'm not saying DiVincenzo is bad at this. What I'm saying is the idea that there's a skill overlap there, buddy. No, the skill overlap is between DiVincenzo and Hart on defense, at least. It's just it doesn't physically look that way to the eye, but they're both good rebounders. They're both very, very good off-ball players who can generate deflections. Neither one of them is a guy you want taking the best offensive option. And maybe that's the problem, is that Thibs thinks that Hart is that guy. But it just grind. And I think the reason would be, well, everybody knows this, so Grimes is going to be your most valuable trade piece, right? That's what we're told about IQ. Again, you're trading two of your best young players for to bring in vets, and that's fine. Are the vets even better? Like, if that's a question, like, we're not building for the future, I get that, but the vets you're bringing in aren't better. Like, I get it. You brought in DiVincenzo. He's an adequate quickly replacement, so you can reallocate those resources to a guy like
I think the quickly thing is more annoying because
where it doesn't make sense.
Well, look, the quickly thing is different because however you feel about that, I can at least understand the argument of, like, it's one I disagree with because they never fully explored anything with quickly. But if the argument is basically we need to get a big wing defender that's an archetype we just do not have, and we need to get that, and OG's the best one. He's the best one, right? That's the argument, right? He's the best one. That's more valuable than Quickly, who we but we don't think is a star point guard. He tops out somewhere just below that level, right?
Or he's not. We have Brunson.
Yeah, we have Brunson, and therefore he's not going to be better than Brunson. And as good as he is, we just need this thing, and that thing is more valuable. Look, I get all of that. And while I will forever disagree with how they manage quickly here, I can wrap my brain around it, right? I wrap my head around that, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Cool. You took out 2 guys from the rotation, 2 big minutes guys. Okay, Deuce gets the quickly bump. Cool. We're happy. You're now talking about you need to trade out Grimes to bring in somebody. And the other part of this piece, by the way, that actually another part that just I fundamentally disagree with is this. And look, they obviously should be operating on a lot more intel than I am. So hopefully this logic proves to be true. But one thing that is mentioned in here is this. Hold on one second. Okay. So the Knicks hold preferences beyond player type too. They obviously want a creator, right? They are also speaking specific types of contracts. The long-term plan remains to add a star to the core that's already present, but the organization still does not expect that star, whoever he may be, to become available until this summer at the earliest, league sources tell The Athletic. And basically the point is, if it goes on to say this, the preference is not to flip Grimes for a player the Knicks could lose in free agency this upcoming summer, league sources said. And then later on, it goes on to say specifically, sorry, one second. It means the Knicks' ideal trade candidate today fits the following criteria: somebody who Thibodeau trusts, suck a fucking wet fart, someone on a tradable salary, someone with at least one more year remaining after this one on his contract, someone who can run the offense when Brunson is hurt or resting. It's kind of obvious what is being discussed here, right? It's about getting somebody who can be used. If the Knicks have a trade for a star, it goes on, but it's very obvious they want to have somebody that they can later trade in a star trade. And fine, but I just don't feel great about that type of team building. Maybe that's a luxury I have as a fan and not as somebody who is in a front office and has to kind of think in such a cold-hearted way. But yeah, it's just, again, this is the final part. Not the final part, it's right in the beginning. But the goal, according to league sources familiar with the organization's thinking, is to add someone who could help the team today and also has a contract that would be attractive in a hypothetical trade for a star this upcoming summer. But acquiring a talented player takes giving up something good too. I'll say this: if you think Deuce is legit, then shouldn't you want to trade for more of a wing scorer type guy than
unless you think Deuce is a 2, right? Is he your solution at the 2? Can he play the Grimes role? Which I think he can.
We need a bigger guard then.
Do you think Brunson and Deuce is untenable?
Well, it doesn't matter what I think. Our fearless leader has told us that such players cannot play together, and the masses brought into it. No, I'm being dead. No, Stacy, I'm not joking. I'm being serious. This is the logic that I was told, not by you, but countless people. This is the logic for why Emmanuel Quickley could never be a long-term player here. That is a logic that also came out from people reporting.
Deuce is a little bigger than Quickley,
but that's the reporting that came out in and around the organization. And there's been nothing to suggest that Thibodeau believes Deuce can play next to Brunson because he's never done it. And he hasn't done it even when they've been shorthanded. He hasn't done it since Quickley and RJ have been traded. So I don't even think I actually genuinely do not believe this is worth considering. He does not believe that that's possible. And we have plenty of evidence to suggest that is true. Because you could not ask for more positive evidence than you would have had from Quickley and Brunson, and you didn't give a fuck. So I am going to say similarly and say I don't give a fuck about what I think here or not, because it doesn't fucking matter. Because Tom Thibodeau apparently knows better than everybody.
I do think that he has played Deuce and Brunson together because Brunson babysits that bench unit.
I'll look it up right now. I'm pretty sure they've barely played any minutes together over the last years.
Well, 2 years, but over the last few games Deuce wasn't a part of the rotation, right? So that's not
Deuce did not play with Brunson. They were
Deuce
basically
didn't play, period. because they had Quickly. You have to look at it without Quickly, right?
I'll look it up quickly. That's no problem.
Um, I think it's really it's Hart is the problem, but Hart is the guy that is being shoehorned into roles that he probably shouldn't be shoehorned into when guys can fit that, but they're quote unquote smaller. I think Deuce plays pretty fucking big. I do want to, on a more
They
positive.
played 0 minutes together since the trade.
Really?
Yes, I was pretty sure
Brunson
that
has not. Brunson has not played a single minute. Wow.
not a single possession.
Well, that's another thing. It's like they're asking Deuce to be a backup point guard. For as good as Deuce has been, and I want to talk about this because this is maybe a positive thing. Deuce, they've asked me the backup point guard. They'll babysit him with Randall, so that's not, leaving him on an island. But he's had to play without both Brunson and Randall. His strengths are not. It's not that he's so bad at space creation. He has some quickness. He showed last game. One of the really encouraging things against Orlando was he showed he was experimenting with change of speeds, ball handling, because it was experimentation. It's not something he's done a lot. It wasn't particularly effective all the time, but he's trying those things out, and I think he has some of the tools to do that. I think we mentioned it, like he had that behind the back move, which was gorgeous, and it's figuring out that touch, right? It seemed like every time he got the free throw line and they collapsed on him, he had to think, he had to stop and think, right? Those are things that I think reps help. I mean, we've seen Quickly go through that a couple years ago. But I think that, like, why would you not play Flynn with him, right? Flynn and Deuce seem to be. Flynn is not a bad defender. He's a very good shooter, and he's better at some of those nuances, while Deuce is just probably the better overall player. I think you could play both of them, especially since Deuce can guard. I think that's another thing where it comes to Thibs. Are you willing to trust Deuce to be on a 2 Can you trust him to guard Jaylen Brown? You saw that. His rookie year, he was on Cade Cunningham for a while. And
Thibs can't, so that's what it is.
And he did struggle, and Thibs brought in Alec Burks, and the Knicks won that game. It's a game they should have won by a lot more, of course, all these things. So those things can matter. But, kind of aside from our frustrations, what did you think of the Deuce game yesterday? Did you see anything different? Like, he was hitting some I'll say this, as much as he can replace Quickly stuff seems kind of insane to me, just if you watch the game. But I think he's a better point of attack defender. I think he's a damn good team defender. Quickly had all the on-off stats. Deuce is up there. And I actually think the one thing he's really much better at is just because of his high release. Quickly's developed that mid-range game, but Deuce can really hit some contested shots. And this is not, you can say, well, or he was hot against Orlando. That was something that showed up in college. And he has the confidence and the kind of the leash now to attempt those and make those with confidence. I'm curious, what did you think of Deuce yesterday?
I thought he played really well. I thought his shooting is really coming along nicely. I buy the 3-point shot now. It's nice to see that.
But it's not just catch and shoot. It's really
it's really good. I also think that he doesn't create a lot of easy shots for himself. He doesn't get into the paint consistently enough. Now, I actually think yesterday he explored more dribble penetration than he has previously.
Sometimes you got to explore penetration, just
yes.
the tip, just to see how it feels.
Yes. And so I think that's, obviously worth, it's good to see that, but it's obvious that bench unit just does not have enough offensive creation, which is why they need Josh Hart. No. But I don't know. He's in a really tough spot, and I actually feel bad for him. And it sucks that this is when he's getting his shot, because the Knicks are clearly going for it. And I don't know that they have the wherewithal to, I don't think that I don't think the Knicks can afford to just be well, we trust Deuce and that's that. I think it's really tough for them. And so this is where the Grimes piece comes in too, where it's okay, well, we need to make another move. okay, but if we make another move, then Grimes minutes are gone, and like I just because they're not gonna they can't
Do you
trade
think
Hart
Deuce can
right
fill those?
now. Sure. I don't know. I mean, I think you can trade a guy like, say you trade for Brogdon. He's a pretty big guy. Like, I think you have some options there. Maybe you trade for a guy like Bogdanovich instead of Brogdon. Like, maybe you go with a wing guy instead of a point guard. And like, I don't know. Like, if you're betting that Brunson's going to be back at some point, and you now trust Deuce to at least play like, let's say 16 minutes a night, that can go a long way. That can go a long way to preserving Brunson and cutting his minutes. But Thibs has to believe in Deuce, not just when Brunson is out, but when Brunson is hurt, like healthy, he can't freak out the first, like, oh my God, we had 3 straight bad possessions. Oh, I got to get Brunson back in. Like, you got to give the guy a fucking shot for real. Like, you got to give him confidence. And like, yeah, it's easy to give a guy confidence when you don't have other options. It's easy to do that. But it's,
he's played quickly 60 minutes or whatever against Boston, right? With Brunson out, right?
So. Yeah, but it doesn't matter unless when Brunson's healthy, you also trust him. And he hasn't shown that yet. And I don't really have a reason to believe that he does, like that he will. I just don't. I'm sorry. So I think that you get into a tricky position as management, but I also don't feel sympathy for management at this point because they are allowing Thibs to present the roster and use the roster in ways that are what they are at the moment. And I disagree with that. And I think they're really putting themselves in a tough spot.
What is the most alarming thing about Thibs right now for you?
The Precious stuff. Like it just shows me he does not.
So when you say the Precious stuff, do you mean it's the unwillingness to play Randall to 5?
Yes. That's the only thing I care about. I don't give a fuck about, oh yeah, no, I want Jericho Sims. I mean, 1, I would like to see Jericho Sims ahead of Precious. But 2, like, Jericho Sims is not going to win you a playoff series. Precious Achiuwa is not going to win you a playoff series. So if you want to say, oh, I can't play Randall, like, let's say Hartenstein, ideally, you're like, well, we want to cap him like 32 minutes. Let's say 33 minutes for the hell of it. Okay. So let's say you're like, well, look, there's just no way to do this. Like, I can't play Randall at the 5 for, the other 15. That just doesn't work. Okay, fine. What if you play Randall at the 5 for 5 minutes each half? So now Precious gets 5 minutes a game, literally. Like, is that really that insane? And guess what? That actually has a chance to be something that develops into a pivot that gives you an advantage or at least an option in a playoff series. The Precious fucking Sim stuff, that's not an option. It's just the same thing you're doing with worse players. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh my God, now we have Jericho Sims. This unlocks this like different look that we just don't have otherwise.
And it diminishes the value of the OG trade, to your earlier point. Right?
Yeah. Right. And so to me, like, that's the most alarming thing is that it just proves to me that Thibs only believes in what he believes in. And what he believes in does not have compromise. It's the, what is it? 15 years in the can. Compromise? 15 years in the can. I wanted man of God. I made grilled cheese off the radiator.
Who's that? Frankie? It's Feach Lamana.
No, that's not Feach. It's not Johnny Sack. Jesus, I can't remember his name right now. Fuck. This is really pissing me off. I'm gonna have to eat a bar.
Actually, real quick. Would you take any individual season of The Sopranos over season 4 of The Wire?
I'd have to think about this.
I agree The Sopranos is a better show overall, but
Phil Leotardo. There you go. Sorry, I couldn't get past this. I was just thinking of this thing. Yeah, but
you forgot Leotardo. Oh, I don't remember that quote, so
yeah,
I'm resolved.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I don't know. I personally, I like season 3 of The Wire the most anyway. So
more than 4? For season 3 was good too. So.
Season 4 is like cool it's awesome for a very different reason. Just because you're like, wow, you got these performances out of like fucking kids. Like, that's crazy.
A dude is gonna like grow up to like be a Knicks Twitter influencer.
That is pretty funny to think about. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I think The Sopranos, it's hard. The Sopranos in totality is just so good that who cares. But yeah, like the Thibs thing is just that's what it is to me. It's not so much even the individual. Like when you have Mitch and Hartenstein, I can wrap my head around like being so committed to 48 minutes of rim protection. Even then, it's kind of fucking insane, right? How many times are we watching a game and you're like, this would be a time to go small, like this could make sense here. And I think what's concerning is if he doesn't want to use it all the time now, I could at least understand that, because it's like you want to make the argument, you want to preserve Julius, whatever. I get that. Do you think when Mitchell Robinson is back that makes it more or less likely he would experiment with that?
Less, of course, yeah.
So what the fuck? Like that's the concern. The concern is that he won't even try it now. Why is he going to try when he gets Mitchell Robinson back? And do I think that you can win with a coach like that? I'll say this. Because I was thinking about this exact thing today, because I was thinking about this, I came to a very strong opinion I hold now. And it is this. If this front office is tied to Tom Thibodeau, and it seems they are, Joel Embiid, they have to get Joel Embiid. They have to. They have got to get him. Because if you're not going to go 5 out, if you're never going to use that as a tactical option and look to like, pivot and all this stuff, you need to get that naturally from that position, which is a reason why we talked plenty on this last offseason on here about potentially trading for Kristaps Porzingis. But I digress. Not that Joel Embiid is a true 5 out option, right? But the idea of a legit guy with gravity out to the perimeter, a scorer out there from that position, an offensive force, you need that from that position if Tom Thibodeau is your head coach, because that is the only way. It is the only way you will get lineups that have legit scoring options.
Do you think KP would have sufficed?
Absolutely. I mean, he's a premier rim protector, so I'm 1,000% he would have. Maybe the rebounding wouldn't have been ideal, but I think Thibs would deal with that, right? If he has good rim protection. Apparently, he's able to deal with shitty rim protection and shitty defensive rebounding if he has Precious fucking Achua. And Jericho Sims for that matter. But like, I genuinely,
Jericho Sims is a better defensive rebounder, but
yeah. But I feel really, really strongly about this now. Not that this is not what I necessarily want, or what I feel is the guy that you should go all in for, or whatever you want to phrase it. But if Joel Embiid hits the market and they don't get him, they have failed. That's how I feel about that.
Or they get rid of Thibs.
Yeah, but if they keep Thibs and they don't get Joel Embiid, they have failed. That's how I feel about it. And I feel really, really strongly about that now, because I've seen enough from him now for multiple seasons, and even now with new personnel, that I do not believe he has the tactical ability to adjust to create a 5 out look. Like, I don't think he has that ability as a coach.
I mean, do you need a 5 out look to win a championship?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
I don't think I need to. I think it's very obvious. Unless you have a championship superstar 5, you need to have.
So last year,
or you need to,
year they went 5 out.
Let me phrase it let me phrase it even more specifically. You need to have a look that is your star, like, because I think generally teams, right? This is fair to say. Generally, teams have a star front court guy and a star backcourt guy, and maybe a star wing guy. But like, one guy is a front court guy, one guy is a wing or a guard guy. That's generally how teams are built. Like, so your front court star needs to be able to play the 5 for spurts. So I don't want to get into too much 5 out, but they need to be able to play the 5 for spurts. Giannis can play the 5. Jokic obviously can play the 5. AD can play the 5.
Draymond did. He was
Draymond
star,
can play the 5. The last team that managed to do this, and they were just such a loaded team in so many ways, and they did have a 5 out look, was Toronto. But they could play, they had Ibaka, who's still good at the time.
Siakam played the 5 too, didn't he?
Yeah, Siakam played a little bit of 5. Like, they had options. Boston obviously now has a 5 out look. They've had that for a while. They had Horford, right? Miami doesn't have a 5 out look necessarily, but Bam is obviously the front court guy. You could put,
and they played Kevin Love with the 5. And when Miami actually won it, Chris Bosh was a 5 out guy, right?
So you need to have a look where you're more mobile. You're smaller on the perimeter, like you're 1 to 4 maybe than you ideally are, or than you normally are. But your star front court guy has got to be able to play minutes at the 5.
So is that a Thibs thing, or
yes?
But because the guys we mentioned,
he won't try it. He will not try it. He has not tried it, Stacy. You don't get the benefit of the doubt for 4 years. You cannot try it.
Maybe it's a both thing, but I'm also asking this: the guys you mentioned were much, I think, everyone you mentioned is a significantly better defender than Randall.
I don't think Ibaka was a particularly good defender by that point in time.
He's better than Randall, right?
Yeah, but you can put out strong defensive lineups around Randall. Like it's not impossible. It's Jokic. I mean, look, I love Jokic, but come on, he's a strong defender now.
He's a lot better than Randall. Much
Is
better
he?
rebounder.
He's a better rebounder, but I don't think he's like this amazing. Like he's not a good defender though.
Well, I think the big issue is that Thibs is married to drop, and Randall cannot play drop, right? So the Nuggets play different coverages. They allow sometimes Jokic even blitzes, right? So
and to the point of this, like if you want to tell me Randall can't be your closing guy at the 5 in 98% of situations, yeah, I agree. Have no problem with that. I'm sorry. I watched Denver last year win a fucking finals, and instead of playing a backup 5, they traded for Thomas Bryant at the deadline last year, by the way, because DeAndre Jordan was that fucking horrible.
The West is big, man.
And Thomas Bryant sucked. So guess what he did? Did he keep playing him at the 5 and just, get me a 5. I need a 5. No, he didn't do that. Guess what he did? He just played Aaron Gordon at the 5. That's it. That was their backup 5 minutes last year. Is Aaron Gordon a better defensive player than Julius Randle? Sure. Do you really want to say here? Do we really need to pretend that Aaron Gordon was like locking up teams at the 5 and they were just some god? No.
But I mean, there's so many parts to untangle here, right? There's this.
You got to lean into what is your team good at? What is it? If you look at this Knicks roster right now as it exists without Mitchell Robinson, what are their strengths?
They're actually pretty good at point of attack and defense right now.
Okay.
So to your point, my point is that like I'm agreeing with you in the sense that like they have made all these moves. They might send out their best point of attack defender now, but they made all of these moves to get quote unquote hard-nosed perimeter defenders. Do we need to play drop all the time? Maybe that's the issue, right? Like maybe Randall is more viable if you are hedging or switching more. Because as much as he lapses on the glass and on rotations, he's pretty damn good at switching. He's pretty good at hedging, right? And if you give him a task, very simple task, and it's not heavy effort intensive, he's pretty good at executing it, right? But I think that's interesting. I think that is something I hadn't thought about. But you need that option to go small. I think that's something I'll agree with.
It speaks to his, and I like there'll always be excuses for why he doesn't. I just want one time, like if you can have excuses for why he can't ever play small, why are there always justifications for why he has to play big? Oh well, Grimes wasn't hitting threes, so he had to play Hart and RJ. Who, bro, those guys were fucking lighting it up from 3 in the playoffs. Like, there's always an excuse for why Thibs can't do something. But all I know is this. The last time he actually did play small was that game against Orlando, and then nearly made a pretty miraculous comeback. And that was without OG Anunoby, who theoretically should give you more solidity in a look like that.
Yeah, it's a waste of OG if you don't play him anywhere but 3.
It's a
4 without Randall, right?
And honestly, where I was going to go with what you're talking, like the biggest, and I've been saying this since the summer, and this trade has been a pretty big change, obviously, but I still think this holds true. The biggest advantage this roster has is the lineups you can throw out there, the versatility it has. That's declined a bit because part of the versatility you had prior to the trade was having multiple creators. But in some ways, you can also argue it's opened up other possibilities because you have a more complete set of wing defenders.
You play OG at the 2. Why are you playing Hart at the 2? Play OG at the 2. Neither of them can dribble. One is a much better shooter, and one is a better defender of shooting guards, right?
I mean, just don't play either of them at the 2. And I mean, you can have them defend.
What I'm saying is that, like, if you can play Hart at the 2, you can definitely play OG at the 2, right? So.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I like really. It's very, very frustrating to watch a game like yesterday because you're just watching a guy who is not interested at all. Like his only pivot in that game is like basically to like tell guys to execute harder. That's all he did the entire game, right? Like you can just hear it, like you can see it. You can see it on the floor where you're like, so nothing is changing. We're just gonna do the same fucking thing over and over and over.
Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, it is. Like, I mean, honestly, I know you're like kind of facetiously making a joke, but it is like that. It's just like me watching Ken Dorsey. Like, people are like, oh, well, like, why are you complaining about Ken Dorsey? The Bills are always in the top right of all these great graphs. And it's like, yeah, dude, like I can look good and like my shot distribution can look good even if my offense sucks. That doesn't make the offense good. Like
The
if you
game isn't played on spreadsheets.
yeah, but it isn't. Like it really isn't. The Knicks took a bunch of threes yesterday. They probably got a bunch of shots at the rim for all I know.
They shot well too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing with this is like, so for that, just looking at that game in isolation, in the moment, I was really fucking annoyed because it felt like they should have won that game. And I had an inkling that I was going to follow that up by watching just an embarrassment to sports. I don't think I've seen a bigger embarrassment to sports since Appalachian State. That was a disgrace. They lost to Baker Mayfield. But after I take a step back, it's like, yeah, we know, like, what do we learn from yesterday? We know that Randall cannot handle, like, I've been very critical of Randall, right? We talked about this already. We don't have to rehash it. I can't put too much of that game on him. And you can say, well, you had Chuma Okeke go 4 for 5. I was like, yeah, but Deuce hit some shots that fucking, unless you're Kyrie Irving, no one expects you to hit those. Or Jalen Brunson. He hits shots that Jalen Brunson ain't hitting that like that. Not to say that shouldn't be encouraging or that, Deuce doesn't have real shooting ability we should explore. But, they missed. It felt like so many Knicks losses. They missed free throws. That's, by the way, like, let's talk about this. Like, the Knicks have generally been a decent free throw shooting team this year. RJ was awesome before he got traded. Randall's been up near 80%. He had a shitty game yesterday. DiVincenzo was a good free throw shooter. I don't know what the hell happened yesterday. To me, it also felt like you can't take too much from that game. You can complain about the Hart minutes. The Precious minutes, whatever. Precious wasn't that bad yesterday, though. He fucked up a couple of good passes from Randall. I think it's more like, for the long term, did you not explore the Randall lineup in another game where it probably would have made sense to? But I don't think you can take too much from that game. Like, we've seen it before. We haven't seen it much this season, which is kind of a sign of progress. But some people's takeaway was like, Randall isn't the true star. Great, we knew that. Like, he's not going to do that. Deuce struggles to create but can shoot. Great, we knew that. It was like, in retrospect, it's tougher for me to get upset about it than in the minutia of the game where we had a double-digit point lead and it kind of crumbled. But it was also like, yeah, but that double-digit lead was built on hitting a lot of tough shots from guys who don't normally hit those. Like any Orlando Magic would be equally, I think, maybe not equally, but I can complain till I'm blue in the face about why the fuck did this have to be the game where Chuma Okeke went 4 for 5 from 3, but they can complain about Deuce hitting crazy shots in Jalen Suggs' face.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was very encouraged by what I saw from Deuce just because of what you just mentioned. Like, he didn't get blown up by Suggs. Suggs is a great defender. We saw him give Brunson a really tough time the last game. Obviously, I don't think they were focused in on Deuce the way they were on Brunson for obvious reasons. But like, it's good to see him have a pretty decent game against a pretty strong individual defender. Like, to be, if you're going to put the cards on the table, like, Quickly wasn't game planned against the way Brunson has been, and he's had struggles with Suggs too. And like, look, Deuce wasn't like exactly cutting Suggs up yesterday either, but he had some good moments, right?
Well, it's interesting where he was successful. He was successful pulling up and just like, fuck it, it's going up, and making those. Where Quickly doesn't do that, right? He has a lower release. He's more methodical. Deuce struggled where he kind of had some nice open looks at the basket, or he got into the paint and then just didn't know what to do, where Quickly did succeed, right? So it's interesting to compare those.
He actually did set up DiVincenzo for a nice corner 3 in the 4th after he got into the paint. But DiVincenzo missed it. But like,
that was also, even that one though, that's one where when he got into the paint, he paused.
Yeah, he didn't know what to read.
DiVincenzo was still open. He should make that. but quickly that's going up. Like quickly knows that read. RJ knows that read, right? So that's just, I mean, something Deuce is getting accustomed to, but you can see those differences, right?
Yeah, and I think that like again, it's good to see that. I don't know. I just don't know what they're gonna do with Deuce because he's playing well. Think he's earned time in the rotation. So what do you do? Is he gonna play the 2 now? Because
Well, maybe that's why they're trading Grimes.
Man,
Do you think Deuce can't play the 2?
I don't think it matters what I think.
Thibs is not going to play him with the 2 next to Brunson.
Yeah. So like we don't need to discuss what I want to do or what you want to do because we know what fucking Emperor Penguin has decided he's not going to do. So it's just like this is I don't
This
understand
is the most mad you've been at Thibs in a while.
because I don't understand the point of anything that we're doing. Like you got this versatile. We have to give up quickly and RJ to get this versatile defender chess piece queen that you can move all across the board, but you won't move him anywhere. You fucking answered a question
that the king stays the king.
He answered a question that was asked very specifically by Chris Persianen about playing Randall at the 5. Now that you have OG, he said, "Yeah, that's something that you could do now." He even outlined a lineup where it could work, and he said, and he specifically name checked. He said, "Oh yeah, I like it because Josh can play bigger than he can play bigger, but he won't do it. He can't do it." So, he's in the process of running Brunson in the fucking ground. He's running Randall like this minutes. The minutes he's playing these guys is completely unsustainable. And the only fucking thing anybody wants to talk about is adding, trade this guy, let's trade for that guy. Why? They're all still going to be upset about their minutes. And we know for a fact 2 guys in this team that are still on the roster were upset about their role prior, like this season, Grimes and Josh Hart. We know that Emmanuel Quickly believed he was capable of playing more, doing more, bigger role, however you want to phrase it.
And that may have been something that just wasn't going to happen with Brunson here, but he could have had more than what he had, for sure.
Yeah, I don't really want to go down that path, but I don't really feel like debating this for the 1,000th time. That's 3 guys. I would venture to guess that a guy like Dante DiVincenzo was not super pleased about his role situation prior to being a starter. He didn't mention it directly, but he did say it was a pretty big adjustment. And it's obviously he wants to start. He said that after, I think his first kind of big game for the Knicks might have been against or after they beat Washington. But like when you have this many guys, I mean, and we know last year, right? Like we know guys have been unhappy under Thibs with their role and minutes, and he's had falling out with players. Like I'm just over it. Like you can keep changing these fucking pieces around. Guys are never going to be happy because he wants people to exist in these static fucking roles that never change. And that's not how that fucking works, especially not in a league where guys want to make money. Like, and money is tied to playing time and playing time. Money is tied to opportunity. Opportunity is tied to playing time. And Thibs, he did this. He's done this. He did this last year, but he did this again this year, right? He came back and it was everybody's in the same role. Okay, Grimes, you're the starting 2 guard, but there's no more further opportunities for you. I'm not running plays for you. I don't want you and that's it. You're the same guy. Everybody is the same, except for Quickly and Josh Hart, who randomly had to switch roles. Like, it's bullshit. I'm sorry. He's made bad choices throughout this year. He's also made some good choices, which I credited him for. I think he started the year off actually just doing things that I really liked and I thought were creative and I thought showed genuine growth from him as a coach. And since this trade, I think he's just made shitty choices. The record is what it is because the team is really good. And that starting lineup when they're healthy is fucking gangbusters. But like, I don't think his coaching has improved because of the roster. I think he's actually been worse. Like the Precious Achua minutes are a joke. I hate to keep harping on this, but they're a joke. And now because he's got OG here who plays more, he is trying to force feed Josh Hart minutes to 2. And that means Grimes plays less. Like, it's just stupid. This is just dumb fucking coaching. I'm sorry. And I'm also just sick and tired of the people are like, well, they paid Josh Hart. What can Thibs do? I don't know. You bench fucking Evan Fournier, right? And what is he? Is he a coach is he about what he said before, right? We all know all he cares about is winning. He just wants to win so bad. Okay. So if you want to win so bad, then why are you making decisions that are so illogical towards that goal? At least forgetting, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Thibs is right and I'm wrong, and all the choices he's making are the right ones. We won't know that if he doesn't try anything that what he believes is right. And there's, again, this is his fourth year now with this team, and there's no evidence of him truly compromising any of that stuff. Like what growth? Like has he? Do you remember when the Bucks lost to Miami in the bubble, and there's all this talk about like, oh my god, Budenholzer, his fucking drop scheme. They don't adjust. They don't do anything different. They just do the same. And that's why they get exposed in the playoffs. And that's why this team doesn't hit its ceiling. And then actually they came back and like they changed their defense. Like that, they still played drop heavily, but they did more switching. They did more Giannis at the 5 stuff, all that stuff. Like they did more different things. And fundamentally at their core, they were always going to be a drop scheme. I get that. Like I get what Thibs is at his core. But you've got to be able to push outside those boundaries a bit too. And he never wants to do it. He never, and don't forget wants to, he never does it. Like it's crazy. Like I can actually recall the individual games where he's done something that you're like, wow, holy shit, I can't believe he did this thing. Like last year when we beat Miami to kind of seal the deal for, top 6 seed, he closed that game with quickly a point and didn't bring Brunson back in. And had Josh Hart at the 4 and RJ at the 3 and Grimes at the 2. And like he closed with a lineup that just had it going and he rolled with it. I remember him closing with Obi at the 5 next to Randall in a game against Philly last season, early in the season. But you can remember these things because they're so fucking rare. They just never, and he never carries it forward. Like that game against Orlando this year, he plays Randall at the 5 and they nearly make a miraculous comeback. Or they at least had a chance to, when they look dead in the water. And you would think after the OG trade, you have the personnel better suited to give that look or give that lineup a look now. And he's not done it at all. So yeah, I'm just frustrated. I'm so sick and tired of talking about this team in these binary ways that he presents it. Like, oh, well, like the Grimes thing is just fucking annoying to me. Well, Grimes can't, he's decided that Grimes and DiVincenzo can't play, therefore they can't ever play.
Well, wasn't the reason we traded quickly? This is what I don't want to name any names, but people were saying, well, look at how well DiVincenzo is shooting. Look at Grimes. There's a logjam at shooting guard. Well, Quickly's gone, so that'll open up more minutes for them. They might not be as good as Quickly, but Grimes is getting 13 minutes. So, was Quickly the issue? Was Quickly the reason that Grimes and DiVincenzo were getting minutes? I don't know. I have a strong suspicion to believe that is, you have treated not even a symptom. You have treated, a false symptom or something that was completely unrelated. That's kind of a big deal. Like Grimes and DiVincenzo are supposed to get more minutes with Quickly gone, right? That hasn't happened. And you can't really blame it on the OG trade. And you can't blame it on, like, do you think, I got to ask you this, do you think there's any part of Thibs that is playing Hart more because he buys the creation? Because why is Hart pushing, why is Hart bringing the ball up? Why is Hart waving off Deuce?
But that's I think he was doing this while Quickly was still here.
Do you think that's a Thibs thing?
Yes. I don't think if it wasn't a Thibs, it doesn't matter. It does not matter whether it's a Thibs thing or not. Either it's a thing that he is directing or it's a thing that he's allowing. Either way, it's a problem and it falls on him as a coach. If he can't rein him in or he won't rein him in or he's unlocking him to do these things, that is a fucking issue of coaching. Like that, it does not matter what the reasoning is. Like this isn't, this isn't like a guy not trying on defense, right? Or somebody that's just not trying is a bad example, but somebody who's just a bad defender, right? Like Fournier is just a bad defender. He's a bad defender. So if Thibs had to play him in and he just didn't have any options in a given night or something, right? So he just has to play Fournier. You can't kill him for Fournier being bad on defense because he's just bad on defense. Just what it is. You can kill Thibs for allowing Josh Hart to get away with this stuff, whether he's doing it intentionally or unintentionally, because like there's no reason for it. There just isn't. There's no reason to lean into this. And if he's again, if he's directing Josh Hart to do it, that's a problem because that's just very weird. And if he's not directing him to do it and he's just allowing it to happen, that means that Hart doesn't like he's ignoring his actual instructions, which seems like an even bigger problem. So I don't know. I just think it's a joke. And he was doing this again. I know we talked about this yesterday in Discord, but like again, I would tell anybody to go back and watch the last game that Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett were here for. And go watch the minutes when they're on the floor with Josh Hart. It was an embarrassment. Josh Hart's fucking trying to be Magic Johnson out there. And like honestly, I'm just gonna throw this out there. You have got guys playing so off kilter at times. I really believe that like Josh Hart has introduced this to this team this year, where like he's playing this so like manically.
He's patient zero.
I don't know.
Is he Rudy Gobert at COVID?
Yes, but he's been playing this manic style of ball, and like like that Memphis game. What the hell was that? He was just like it looked like he was drunk in first sections of that game, where he's like sprinting. He threw this outlet pass that got intercepted.
He had like that was a part of his stretch though. The time before that, he like stumbled, trying to push the pace. And
I don't understand. Like, I just think he's all over the place. To me, he needs to be reined back. I would not trade Grimes right now. Again, and I want to be very clear about this. I wouldn't trade Grimes right now because I don't think you need to use him to get the guys that you're likely to get right now. And I would much rather save him for the actual star trade that we're apparently going to make at some point in time. I think he's a lot more valuable in that context. And I think
so like I would DeJounte Murray.
Yeah. But like, and I think you need to retain your young players that actually have value around the league for that move. Not because they're going to, it's not like Grimes by himself. It's oh, wow, we get Grimes. Here's Joel Embiid now. Like, no, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that guy has more value. I think he has a lot more value than some of these protected firsts we have. Like I do believe that. And yeah, like I think
probably not the Dallas one, but definitely like the Detroit one.
Yeah, I think you're selling low on him. I think we've already seen him play better than he's shown at times this year. And honestly, what is he even shooting now from three this year?
Probably upper 30s, not upper 40s, but upper 30s.
Quentin Grimes is shooting 39.2% from three this year.
Yeah, like you're just going to trade that guy because we need to play Josh Hart more minutes.
And it's like, dude, I agree. Like, I agree. He's not had a good year. I get it. He's struggling. His 2-point percentage is down. I mean, it's really down. He's down from 64.1% last year to 45.1. That's obviously terrible. His EFG is down. His true shooting percentage is down. His volume is down. Like I get all of these things.
His defense hasn't been quite as good.
Yeah, his defense hasn't been as good. But like you gotta, to me, that guy showed you something last year. And I refuse to believe that guy is now gone. Like it's just not there. I really refuse to believe that. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope they don't do it. Not right. Again, not because like I am against trading Quentin Grimes under any scenarios. It's because I just think that they're trading low on him. And honestly, I find this entire arc with him very troubling, and I find very disturbing parallels between kind of his situation this year with Josh Hart and Alec Burks' situation with Emmanuel Quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some parallels in the sense that like the Burks Quickly thing was so stupid to me. It's like I wouldn't like Burks was one of the best players on that team. You'd agree, right?
He was one of the best players on that team.
Yeah,
he was absolutely.
It wasn't the problem. Like I think that's like you hate Alec Burks. Did you hate Alec Burks? You didn't hate Alec Burks. I didn't hate.
No,
Alec
I loved Alec Burks.
There was just no point. Like that's the thing. The guy who got off scot-free in that whole discussion was Fournier, right? He was starting at the 2 next to Burks because quote unquote Fournier is bigger. That's the question. It's like, well, hold on. Fournier is bigger for the sense of defense, with the logic of defense. Is he a better defender than Emmanuel Quickly? That answer was a no. If you don't think Emmanuel Quickly is a good defender, is he a better defender than Quentin Grimes? No. Is he a better defender than Deuce McBride? No. So why is Burke starting at point guard? It does not give you a benefit off. Like, did Thibs think that Burks was a better offensive point guard than Quickly? Even if he thought that, play them together, right? I think it's different this case because it's just like, I am worried. We gave this dude $20 million a year. and he can't shoot well. They're trying to make him create. Isn't great at that. He has these intangible things, which now I'm curious, like, has he been a merchant of guys like Quickly, or maybe when he was in Portland and New Orleans, other on-off good players? I've been more hesitant to criticize Hart than you, I think, this year, but it's a worry,
I mean, I don't know anybody's hesitant to criticize Josh Hart. You can love the guy, but
No, I've been more hesitant. I think on this pod you've been a little bit more critical of him early in the year. I was saying
because I'm not trying to like fucking let's not jerk or what does it say? Let's not
start sucking each other's dicks right yet, or
yeah, like I'm not trying to fillet myself here, but like I think it's been obvious all year that Hart has been playing like kind of a jackass, and this started a little bit last year in the playoffs because I remember watching that. There's very specifically, I'll never forget this. I think it was before game 3, against Miami, and Quickly's obviously struggled in the playoffs to that point. And I don't know. I think they asked Josh Hart, how are you guys have you guys talked about it? Like, do you guys feel like you need to do something to help him get going? And Hart specifically was like, yeah, like there are times I'm missing him, and when he's open, and I got to find him, I gotta help him out. I got to give him confidence. And the very next game, he brings the ball down the floor in transition, sees Quickly open, instead dribble penetrates. I think he like turned the ball over, whatever. I don't think he's inherently a selfish player. I think he is playing selfishly. And I think there are seeds of that started last season. And it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that part of this started when Thibs extended his role and importance to the team to a level that it should never be at. And like, when they were injured and they were shorthanded, you could understand it. But even when they had a full deck, he kept him in he's over relying on him. And that's continued into the season. Despite how he's playing, the decisions he makes, like the pure decision-making elements of his play this year have been atrocious as far as I'm concerned. And like his numbers across the board are just not good. Like, I get it. Like I
not
say,
even the on-off without Quickly is awful.
Yeah, so. and it's come down a little bit since then. That he had those back-to-back monster on a plus-minus games against Philly and somebody else, but
but everyone did, right? So
yeah, well, his were crazy. He had like a plus 46 against Philly. But if you look at his true shooting percentage right now, is the second lowest of his career, 53.1. He has a lower assist percentage than he's had since his 4th year in the league. He has a higher turnover. His turnover percentage right now is higher than it's been. It's the second highest of his career right now, his turnover percentage. And it seems like a pretty bad combination of things that are working against you. His offensive rebound percentage is lower than it's been since.
Wow, really?
Yeah, his offensive lower.
So he's not even giving you what you, his biggest trait. So
no, his defensive rebound percentage is lower than it's been since his second year in the league. So, like, he's not playing well across the board. He's not playing as well as he did last year for sure. His finishing has been atrocious. I mean, he's shooting right now at the rim, or not. Sorry, he's getting to the rim way less, which might speak to role. So if you want to, say some of that's about the lineups, I don't disagree. Guess what? It's hard to get to the rim when teams aren't fucking respecting you and you play in lineups where you're the 2. That'll certainly hurt your fucking ability to get to the rim. He's taking the lowest percentage of shots at the rim than he has since his second year in the league.
He's taking all those dumbass fadeaways.
Yeah, he's taking all these stupid ass fucking mid-range shots. He's just playing like an asshole. And like, again, the turnover stuff is debilitating at times. He got fucking ripped yesterday by Cole Anthony off a rebound. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, really?
That was insane. That was it's the kind of play you just never expect from Hart, right? And that's what he's there for. By the way, I will shout out Cole Anthony. Like, if we could get a guard, I would trade Grimes for Cole Anthony. I think like he is like, I don't think he's as good as Quickly, but he is like the guy that gives you all of that stuff plus shot creation, so.
Yeah.
We had a couple of big offensive rebounds late, like just the guy that makes plays and obviously has the skill on the offensive end to move the needle as well. So
I just I don't love shitting on Josh Hart. Josh Hart's a guy I've actually me and Press talked about it when we traded for him and before that, but like he's a guy I've wanted on the Knicks previously. Like I like the player he is.
I mean, you wrote one of the first pieces on PNT, I think, about the Randall Porzingis combo. So you wanted Randall on the Knicks at one point too. So you shit on it too.
Yeah, but like Josh Hart is not playing well, and the bigger issue is like I don't even think it's that big of a deal that he's not playing well. You know what I mean? Like I think it's guys struggle at various points in their career. Like the big thing about stars and the great stars, what makes stars is they're consistently excellent. Like that is what a star is. A star is a consistently excellent player. And role players generally will not be as consistent. That's okay. That's kind of like what you expect. Josh Hart has been bad this year. And you know what? Again, that's okay. You just have to cut his minutes and dial it back. And probably by the end of the year, he'll put together a 15-game stretch, and you'll be like, "Oh wow, he's ready to go. Let's roll out." Like he's dial up his minutes, and we can like. But you got to do it, and Thibs refuses to do it. Thibs just is trying to play him through this, and that's really frustrating. And I think it's causing issues. I really think that like a lot of the stuff we've talked about, Grimes minutes, all these things, you know, where how like this idea that we can't make trades because oh my god, what will happen if we have another good player is so stupid. Like it is so dumb to operate this way. Well, how could Thibs manage the rotation? I don't know, like a fucking normal human being. Is that possible? Can we do that?
Yeah, that's the whole. It's just like they're like, well, you have to give Hart. I was talking to someone I respect on Twitter. Not going to name any names, but he was saying, well, Hart needed 23 minutes. You need to give him 20 plus minutes. That's how he gets going with his hustle stuff. And I was like, hold on. We're talking about Grimes getting 13 minutes here. Hasn't it always been the thing that shooters need to get into a rhythm, right? Hustle stats and all of that should just come no matter what. And it just seems like we often do these kind of, me and you have both probably done it too, where we do these kind of gymnastics to defend. It's like, dude, just play Randall at the 5 for 5 minutes. You lost the fucking game anyway. Precious Achiuwa, you can't tell me Precious Achiuwa is worse at the 5 than Julius Randle. You just can't tell me that. There's no way he's a worse center than Julius Randle. Or sorry, well, I mixed that up. There's no way he's a better center than Julius Randle. Do you actually think that? Do you think? Is there anything? Is he a better rim protector than Randle? Maybe.
Precious?
Maybe.
I mean,
maybe not even that. That's
no, he's not. He's no idea.
Obviously, on offense, there's no comparison. But
yeah, Precious is so much better.
Why would Randle? What does he give you that Randle doesn't give you at the 5? Then if you say, well, we needed Randle to play a bunch of minutes at the 4, like, okay, but you already had to bench him anyway. Split those minutes up. You were feeding OG. You know, you think Josh Hart is a point guard. Play him more at the 3. Get some shooting around them. Because that's the other thing. It's like, as much as I want to like be critical of Randle and honestly Deuce and Flynn, you can throw Flynn in there. They struggled to like get into the paint, right? How many times, I cannot stress this enough, how many times were they running the baseline and they're like, what the fuck? Why are there 20 dudes on me? Oh, look, Josh is open. They throw it to Josh. He either bricks a 3, pump fakes. That's what their game plan is. That is the game plan when Josh Hart is in the game. And there's another 5 in there.
It also, you know, the other thing too, it also makes it, I can't believe, great point. I can't believe we didn't bring this up the entire time. The killer is playing, Hart also exclusively like plays his fucking minutes with Precious right now, which is insane. Like, it's like the worst combination possible. I want to like fucking, you know, I'm like, I feel like I'm like Lenny watching it and somebody's just like, yeah, tell me, George, about the farm.
The rabbits.
Tell me about the rabbits, George.
I don't know which Lenny you were talking about, man. So.
But like when you're like what you just described, it also makes it easier for teams. Like they know they don't even give a fuck when like they close out on Hart and he drives by them. They don't give a shit because they're already like, oh, the 5 is good. We have the 5 waiting for him at the rim, so they're already closing out to like another shooter potentially, right? Oh, there's Deuce. That might be who Hart kicks it out to now because he's definitely not going to take the fucking shot. And so it just compounds. It compounds. It compounds. It makes it harder for
It's why I
everybody.
can't put it on Randall yesterday. Like, how many of those possessions he was trying to make the like? We've seen shitty Randall performances, right? Do you honestly think like his process was bad yesterday? Like his process, not the results, the process.
No, so I'll be honest. Like I did not have a problem. Like the defensive stuff was bad, and it was bad even before he got hurt. So like,
but he finished a +2. I think it's worth mentioning.
I know. Yeah. He finished a +2, and like I mentioned why. Like I think that even when he had a bad game individually in terms of scoring offensively, it's very very obvious the things he opens up can help other guys on the floor. That's very clear to me. I didn't have a problem with his process offensively. Was there some stuff that like, sure, he didn't play like the perfect process game ever, but no, his process was fine. And like you mentioned,
he wasn't playing an asshole. Like,
no, he wasn't. And I actually think like the reason why I buy that he was legit injured is at the end of the game, like this is like, in the playoffs last year, I just was annoyed because people were like, oh, I think he's hurt. And I'm like, dude, he's still like taking these possessions up at the end of games and trying to force shit that is a joke. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt here. But yesterday, if you watch the end of the game, like he was trying to like, yeah, he get the ball, but he was trying to like get it back to Deuce, set a screen for Deuce, run a dribble handoff with Deuce. Like he was not really trying to create that much because I think he knew he just didn't have it. Whether that be because of injury
or because they're focused on him, right? So
yeah, or because he went to a game in fucking Dallas the day before, and who God knows.
You really think that's an issue?
I think it's a bad look.
Besides the fact that he's a Cowboys fan and all Cowboys fans suck, but
so Julius Randle, so Kaiden sucks.
I don't take shots at little kids, but
but like, also I think it's a bad look in the sense of, yeah, optics can be what they are. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I just have a hard time questioning his, like, I'll question a lot of things about Randall. I don't think I can really question his willingness to show up for work. Like he does it all the time. So I just generally
not Dante, right? I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Yeah, I like
that. I don't know why
also,
I gave like the.
Didn't we have like Brunson went to like a fucking Villanova jersey ceremony this year, right? Like,
well, that's local. That's the.
Yeah, it's local, but it's still a fucking travel, right? Like, if the point, because honestly, dude, I don't think there's a huge difference between like the way these guys travel between going to Philadelphia, New York, and fucking Dallas, New York. I really don't. So I don't know if people want to make a big deal about it. I'm not gonna like shit on them for it because I kind of get that, but personally, to me, I don't really give a fuck. I think, like, if he didn't show up, like, if his effort sucked yesterday, I don't think it had anything to do with that trip. I think he just effort. Like, if you just think his effort sucked, his effort just sucked. I don't think it had anything to do with that trip because we've seen him play like a back-to-back before, and he's fine. So now all of a sudden going to Dallas for a game is the reason he was lethargic yesterday. Like, I think that's bullshit. But yeah, like I agree. I thought the defensive stuff, again, like, that's fair. I think it's fair to criticize him for that, even if you want to give him the caveat of the injury, which I kind of do. But again, like with Julius, I'm just at a point where I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit about any of this until the playoffs. If you get the same type of mixed bag performances in the playoffs, then go. I'll be right there, with my fucking pitchfork and torch in hand and criticizing him. But like right now, like, no, I think he's fine. I had very little issue with his performance yesterday, other than just being like, would have been nice if he made a fucking shot.
Yeah, but the 3-pointer was awful yesterday. Like that, as much as like I love the improved kind of willingness to go to 10 feet, it's like getting some of the even last season's 3-point shooting would be nice. Getting back to Hart, do you think Hart is as detrimental right now as Elfrid Payton was to the offense in terms of spacing?
Sorry, say it again.
Do you think Hart is as detrimental right now to the spacing on offense as Elfrid Payton was?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I think so. I think it's fair to say that. Like the guy can't shoot from anywhere but the corners, and he's not shooting well from the corners. Like, just looking at his numbers, on I don't know what he's shooting above the break, but from the corner this year, he's taking 35% of his threes from the corner. He's shooting 33.3%. He's a career if you want he's gonna get better. He's shooting his career. He's shooting 40.7% from three in the corner three, and he's actually taking the second highest percentage of corner threes he ever has in a year, aside from last year with the Knicks.
But that's not a big spacing help necessarily, right? So
it isn't, but he gets a lot of payoff possessions, right? It's he gets a lot of tush push 1 yard runs here. We need him to cash him in at a higher rate.
He got stopped on that. I mean, it was a face mask. I mean, this is not the first time there's been a controversial voting result in Florida. I honestly want to say, well, can you just give him Grimes his minutes and give Grimes his minutes? At this point, like you said this before, you said like, why don't they have OG? Like everybody else on the roster does at least a few of the things Hart does, and some of them do. OG does everything Hart does at a better level, besides maybe handle the ball. But honestly, that is splitting hairs. DiVincenzo, I mean, is DiVincenzo a palpably worse rebounder than Hart? Marginally, maybe. DiVincenzo's like, he had some big fucking rebounds. I mean, you'd agree with that, right? Obviously better shooter. Probably equal as passers, but I think DiVincenzo is more willing to defer. Grimes is a way better point of attack defender. OG is a better point of it. So if you look at the bag of skills that Hart has, that is the overlap, right? We talked about overlapping skills between Grimes and DiVincenzo. He's the overlap right now, and he's going to pay $20 million. And I think maybe it's just 1 or 2 games, but as someone, again, who really was a defender of the Hart trade last year, I'm starting to agree with you that, like, yeah, like OG's here now. What would you say you bring? What would you say you do here? I don't know. And it's taking minutes away from guys who do actually, kind of diversify and amplify the skill set of the other guys on the roster.
Yeah. I mean, it's what it is. Like, I'm just going to close with this, but like,
I did have one other thing I wanted to bring up afterwards, but yeah, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like cards on the table. Like, I would have fired Thibs after last season because I thought that was as far as he could take this team. And I know there are people that are like, well, he hasn't gotten a superstar yet. You got it. Well, that's fine.
He has one, by the way, I think.
Yeah. But. And I just like the things that I feel are problematic are not related to the talent level on the roster specifically. Like, it's not about, I don't care that they lost to the Heat last year. I care about how they lost. And I think his process has limitations. I think his lack of flexibility has limitations. And I don't know that those things change even when you get superstars. If you think that all that matters is superstars, I would tell you to go look at Doc Rivers' record with all the superstars he's coached. It's not very great. You need to
win a ring.
He did back in 2008. And you want to know why he did that? Because he used KG at the 5. And he wouldn't.
Boom.
Yeah.
That was a brag drop right there.
And Posey at the 4. Wow, what a moment. But like,
do you think Thibs wouldn't use KG at the 5?
I don't know.
Damn. I see where you're coming from. I think
he wasn't that coach.
If he used Precious at the 5, he's got to use KG, right? Unless you think KG's a worse.
He uses Precious at the 5 next to Randall.
Well, Randall isn't KG.
Yes, he is.
I did want to.
Did KG ever average 25, 10, and 5?
I mean, like he said, anything is possible. So.
I mean, I know. I think he would have used Garnett at the 5 because Garnett is like an actual good defensive player. But I also think we'd be sitting here being like, man, we should probably do that more. And I mean,
look, Celtics fans are probably doing the same thing with.
But it's more reasonable if you do it at all. Like if you don't ever do it, then what the fuck?
And,
like, how
Doc used Paul Reed at the 5. Well, Paul Reed was kind of the big contention for, I think, a lot of Sixers beat writers.
Just so you know, Kevin Garnett never averaged 25 points per game in his career. Julius
He
Randle
never.
better.
I had him on a team. I had on a fantasy team where he was putting up like 25, 15, and 5 or something.
He had
He
24. He had 24, 14, and 5 1 year.
It was good enough for my fantasy team.
Yeah.
Not
Not good enough to be Julius Randle though.
Before we get out, I did want to ask: is there a chance they completely eschew the trade market? Is it eschew? Eschew? Eschew the trade market.
It's
A
true.
guy that eschew. And a guy that's come up is Gordon Hayward. We know the Knicks had interest in him a few years back. Leon Rose's first summer, I believe. They offered him 400. He ended up signing for 120. Is there? I mean, because Hayward is still, his numbers are still pretty good from what I've seen. From what the impact stats are saying, the defense is just awful. But besides Mark Williams and I guess Miles Bridges to some extent, Charlotte isn't playing very many even adequate defenders. Do you think that is the kind of move that fills the need for another creator off the bench?
Rozier.
No, Hayward.
Hayward buyout, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, can we can't trade for him, right? Because
we don't have the salaries. Gordon Hayward. I'm not gonna pretend like I've been watching.
Yeah, like 38% from three.
You know, when I've been crunching the Hornets tape this year, no, I like his numbers aren't bad. They're 47 from the field, 36 from three.
His defense is apparently like ass. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to believe that that's probably true. His defensive EPM isn't that bad, but I think defensive EPM has a lot of noise for a lot of reasons.
Darko does not like his defense at all. Like he's taken a nose. Like he's worse on Darko than DeJounte, which is kind of
and I think Darko is much better at grabbing defensive information than EPM is. So that tracks from what we've seen of him. Also, I think it's like I don't know, maybe, but to me, it's like you're signing Hayward to like this is all to like mitigate Thibs stuff. You know what I mean? Like. I just don't.
We need a creator no matter what. Like
we do, but
and he can do that still.
I think if you're gonna go get a creator, then just go get one. Like go get one that actually matters. Like I don't think Hayward's gonna matter in the playoffs.
Do you think Hayward is a worse creator than Brogdon? I don't even know if I believe that. Hayward's
I think he's worse at what we need. We need somebody that can dribble penetrate consistently. He can't do that. Hayward's more of
a really good passer and he's a good shooter.
But he's more of a secondary guy. He's a guy that can play off of the initial action.
So, and yeah, like you have a hybrid, but that's kind of what we've done in the past. You have this hybrid, like Deuce is not quite a primary, but can do some stuff. But quickly, those two together.
But it's easier to do that with Quickly because Quickly is just better right now at initiating and just generally kind of getting into.
But you can follow that model, right? Like a couple of guys who are not on their own.
But you can't do they can't. I think if you do that, that's your big move. You're punting the season. You're saying that,
I'd rather do that than like the Murray. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather do that than Murray.
And I think there's a debate about whether that's actually a worse move than giving up an asset, even a minor one.
I think Rozier is just who I'd go for.
Really? What do you think it would cost?
Rozier's got 2 years left in his contract. It's not a bad contract. It's like 2 years, $50 million, something like that. I don't know. What do the Hornets want to do? This is the problem. We don't know what the Hornets want to do. They've been holding on to this guy fucking forever. But I would like to think that, like, I don't know, you throw Fournier and give him a protected first, couple seconds, call it a day. Like, are they really getting more than that? I don't know. I'd love to know what team is going to give up more than that for Terry Rozier. And I would love to know why they want to keep Terry Rozier continuously. Maybe Terry Rozier can ask out too. Do us a solid. I need to go to New York. Okay, we'll send you there. No, I don't know. I'd like to believe that he's not like. There's no reason for me to believe he's worth some exorbitant amount as an asset. Down. Do they want to get rid of him? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But his name keeps cropping up, and you would think that at some point he'd want to get the fuck out of there and like. Maybe play meaningful basketball again because they're not even close to playing meaningful basketball right now. And they don't seem destined to be close to it anytime soon. So, yeah.
But you still wouldn't trade Grimes for him.
No.
That is interesting because he's a pretty good shooter. He's not that level of defender, but he gives that.
You need we're trying to be good this year, right? So to me, it's important to keep depth, and it's good. It's important to keep guys that give you options. Even if Grimes isn't happy about his role the rest of the year, tough shit. We'll deal with that in the offseason. We can trade you in the offseason if we need to be. And I think it's easier to get value for him in the offseason or use him in a way that makes sense in the offseason. I don't think it makes sense to deal him right now. I would not trade him for DeJounte Murray. I would not trade him for really any of these guys other than Clarkson, like I said before.
You didn't say Clarkson. You said
or sorry, not Clarkson. Sexton.
Yeah.
Sexton's the only guy. But Clarkson, I like Clarkson, but I wouldn't do it for him. Like I like a lot of these guys. I'm just not interested in trading away Grimes. And I think people are underestimating the value that Grimes has as a restricted free agent. Like, yeah, you got to pay him, but guess what? You can pay him pretty fucking easily because you control his restricted free agency rights. And can we stop? Like, I'm so sick and tired of fucking our fans undervaluing our guys. Emmanuel Quickley was traded for apparently the God mode 3-and-D defender of the NBA. Clearly he had fucking value. Okay? Like, clearly RJ Barrett had some value too to be included in that deal, I guess. Like, but I think Emmanuel Quickley clearly was.
And they're both playing really well. Like,
yeah.
With so RJ, I think we'll see with the 3-point shooting, but Quickley is the starting guard, and they're like, he can't do it against starters.
Yeah. And
he's still like, by the way, his on-off stats have translated. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
And he's still like +6 on-off.
And the stupidest fucking thing, like these are the same people. Oh, I think Grimes would be. I think McBride could be good if he gets chances. Oh, you're just saying that another classic case of like Knicks fans overvaluing their young guys. And like you've stayed on the Deuce McBride Island. I had kind of like felt, maybe it happens for him. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Took a boat, tried to see clearer waters.
Yeah, I'm on a boat. But he's clearly benefiting from the fact that now he's in the rotation, and now we're saying, okay, wow, this guy actually does have like not just skills to be like a nice little spark plug, but like maybe there's more there. Like this team has drafted well. Mitch, this people used to say about Mitch. Like I'm guilty of that too, but people said this about Mitch, right? Guess what? Mitchell Robinson, really good starting center. Like maybe we don't just overvalue our guys. Maybe we just think our guys are good and not dudes that we should just throw away for fucking random fucking names in the trade machine. Is that so bad? Is that so hard to believe? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just like if Grimes is just a throw-in or like you can get a creator. Sign Isaiah Thomas. That was a joke, but like what this is. Remember the look. I think the untouchable thing was just crazy, but is this guy really going from a guy you were very? He's not untouchable in a Mitchell trade, but he was clearly very highly valued in a Donovan Mitchell trade. So you won't trade him for Donovan Mitchell, who, whatever our reservations are, is orders of magnitude better than the guys that are on that list that you mentioned. Now you're going to trade him for Jordan Clarkson? That's a big, steep drop, especially for a guy who's still shooting 40% from three. And you can talk about his 2-point percentage. That's his job. 40%. Like, can you shoot 40% from three? Yes. Can you provide? He has not been elite point of attack defense. This is we won game 5. He made the big play there, right? At the end, he was fucking hurt, and he stole the ball from Butler, and it's insane. And depth is part of it, and it's also like, why are we doing this? It's because we had to get rid of Quickley because Deuce because DiVincenzo and Grimes aren't getting minutes. Well, we have to get rid of Grimes now because we don't have a creator, and he's not getting minutes anyway. Well, what's the common denominator there? You got rid of. You said this, right? You said RJ gone. That'll open up a ton of minutes. So we'll Quickly. How is Grimes still getting 13 minutes a game? It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it is certainly something. But hey.
And I think Precious, you're right to bring it up. Everyone's going to talk about Hart. It's right to bring up the fact that you put Randall a little bit more at the 5. You open up some minutes from OG at the 4. And you can shift some of those Hart minutes there. We don't have to eliminate him or even reduce his minutes, but it's like, why is Grimes? We scored 94 points in a game. Why is the guy who went 3 for 4, 2 for 3 from 3, who's like one of your few shooters? Why is he getting 13 points, 13 minutes?
I don't know. It's fucking ridiculous, and I really I don't have an explanation for it. The last thing I'll say is just like I get the logic of the moves that these guys that the front office seems to be making. I don't necessarily agree with what seems to be an over reliance on Tom Thibodeau in guiding this, but nonetheless, I get the logic of it. I don't love it as a fan. Like, I would like to have some young players in this team that we drafted and developed and we're part of, like, whatever it is that we're building towards. Feels a little shitty to me that Quick and RJ. Yeah, I mean, Deuce is here, but like we'll see. He's here for now. It feels shitty to me that RJ and Quick aren't here. Although, again, I get it. I understand it. Just sucks as a fan. And like, if Grimes is all of a sudden like, look, man, I tweeted this out. I'm sure you can find it after the Knicks beat that won the Cavs series. But like, I love that game 5. Like, that game featured. We had 4 guys that we drafted scored double digits, I believe. Quickly, Mitch, RJ, Obi. Our rotation last year had 5 guys that we drafted and developed.
Obi was awesome. Like, yeah, I forgot about that.
We had 5 guys in our rotation last year that were drafted and developed here. Quick, RJ, Mitch, Grimes, and Obi. And now, like, I'm supposed to have no feelings about potentially having one of those guys left who's not even fucking playing right now because he's hurt. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong for if people view it just as like transactional stuff. I get it. This is just for me personally, just how I am as a fan, I guess. Like, I struggle with that. I think it sucks. I would like to have some guys that were drafted and developed here. I think it means something to do that. I'm not saying those guys have to be the best guys in your team or they have to be the only guys in your team. Obviously, not everybody's as fortunate as, say, like a Denver or a Golden State or whatever. But I would like it, and it would be nice. And they don't need to be superstars, but yeah, like, I would like them to be a person on this team. And like, I've already seen people with Hartenstein playing the way he is. I've seen people talk about, and I've talked about it too, because it's the cold hearted reality of like, well, what if they need to trade Mitch? And like, what if Mitch's salary to go out? And, like, it's very possible that happens. And I just think it's tough. Like, I personally, again, this is just me. I'm not telling anybody how to feel about it because ultimately we all want the Knicks to win. I just think it would suck if, like, we're sitting here a year from now and all 5 of those guys are gone from this team. And that doesn't mean that would be objectively the wrong basketball move. I just think it kind of sucks from my personal fan perspective.
I also don't think it makes it bad. I think choosing Hart over Grimes and Quickly, I don't think that's a good basketball move either. So
yeah, I think that's flat out stupid. And if that's what it becomes, we'll have to hopefully get over that somehow. But yeah. All right. That is our show for today. Stacy, let the people know they can find you and plug anything you'd like to plug. Maybe an Eagles head coaching search. Are you going to put your hat in the ring?
I'll say this. If you were a coach looking to get back to the NFL, you wanted a chance to win a Super Bowl, if your identity was built around strong defensive lines, strong offensive lines, a mobile quarterback, why would you not want to go to Philadelphia? And are there any college coaches like that who may be on the job market right now?
You guys should hire Ken Dorsey. He's so different from what you guys are doing this year.
If he's going to go, I would rather him go to coach the Eagles than fucking Dallas. God, if he went to Dallas, if Harbaugh went to Dallas, that wouldn't ruin the national championship vibes, but it would be a real turd in the punch bowl. But I won't plug anything else.
I can't see Harbaugh going to Dallas. That just does not seem like a Harbaugh place.
The reason I think Philly's the best fit, actually, honestly. It's an inside out, line based place with a good quarterback. I think the only reason it might not work is because Howie won't cede control. And if LA is willing to give him that, fine. And if no one's willing to give that, he'll come back. But like in terms of the NFL fit, you want to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And his brother coached there. But I'll just plug all the great work at the Strickland, Strictly NFL. As the playoffs heat up, definitely listen to Con and Jeff. And they have some really, really good takes. I always love talking football with Con. So, and all the great work we're doing on the Knicks as we get into this important stretch with a lot of home games. So, as Strickland.
Yeah, I have nothing to plug personally, so I'll just plug all the work at Strickland as well. Check out the post games and all that stuff. I believe me and Luca, you might know him on Twitter as @Knickstape, 2 underscores afterwards. We'll be going live and doing a playback tomorrow for the Knicks game. So keep an eye out for that. And aside from that, I think to plug. So thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you to Bet Online for sponsoring. That is our show for today. Hope everybody has a great week, and I will see you on Friday.